Okay, so welcome to Module 9. Module 9 is going to cover two chapters, so make sure you read chapters 10 and 11. And so the focus for Module 9 is inventory management. And so inventory management is the whole process of ordering, storing, and selling a company's inventory. It also involves managing the flow of raw materials all the way till their journey to becoming a finished product. So every company should be looking for practical, attainable ways to lower their operating costs. And one of the ways to do that would be to incorporate an inventory control system. Inventory control system is one of the best way to do that exactly. So if you're budgeting for technology, it can seem daunting when you start adding up the numbers. You'd be surprised, but at the same time, you got to remember that the benefits and the ripple effects of getting that the right technology could offer, especially when it comes to reducing your inventory errors and retaining customers. So there are actually inventory companies out there that you can outsource to, like Extensive, that can they if that's the only thing they do and that's their expertise, they'll be able to take your what ifs into reality so that you can expedite your growth journey. Now, for the last few years, days inventory outstanding, that was the main metric that most companies looked at. And so days inventory outstanding is the average number of days that a company holds onto its physical inventory before turning it into sales. And so that has been kind of on the steady upswing there. Now, many times an increasing days inventory outstanding will directly contribute to things like spoilage or maybe even dead stock. So if you're in the beef industry, and say that some sort of pandemic happened amongst the cows and they died, well, that is going to impact your days inventory outstanding. Or maybe you're an agricultural farmer and everything gets spoiled, that will also impact. So common sense tells us that if you continue to invest in your inventory when you have a surplus of unmoved products, you're going to really be putting your neck out there to lose money in both the short term and long term. Now, fortunately, tracking inventory in real time keeps surplus and waste to a minimum, while also ensuring that the production and storage of the said inventory is handled efficiently. By preventing, aging stock, you can avoid gratuitous losses and gain more control of your finished goods. Now, retailers have a number of options when it comes to their selling channels that they partner with, like through maybe Amazon, Walmart, and Shopify. These kind of are the top platforms that come to mind. While each of these hubs have their own fair share of benefits, they come with their own unique channels. Amazon's inventory management uses a world-class machine learning algorithms to deliver customized restocking strategies for your e-commerce brand. Amazon's suite of inventory management tools are located right in the Seller Central, and Seller Central is where the merchants can quickly access it. Still, selling on Amazon is associated with a few common challenges, like incurring extra carrying costs because you're overstocking, or maybe there's some errors in the product pricing or descriptions. Now, if you go to Walmart's inventory management, their system uses a vendor managed model. This is where, in a vendor managed model, all the suppliers can access their own inventory data from Walmart's information system. And so that data includes things like the current inventory levels or even the rate at which the goods are being sold. In addition, the suppliers can decide if they want to send a replenishment to Walmart, giving them more control over their inventory. Now, of course, there's a drawback. The drawback is that Walmart only ships to addresses within the United States. So that's kind of a limiting factor. Now, if you decide that you want to go with Shopify, Shopify inventory management allows businesses of any size to have an e-commerce store up and running in no time. In fact, Shopify actually provides um, those native tools for inventory control and inventory tracking that helps the retailers to manage their stock levels with ease. Now, with that being said, these proprietary tools start presenting challenges once you expand your operations to new channels, like channels that are other than Shopify. So simply put, your inventory management systems, they can become limited in their capabilities outside of that host platform. So that kind of brings us also to looking at the benefits and the costs of having an inventory system. Now, the problem here when we're talking about inventory is how do you balance the cost of carrying inventory with like customer service? The lower the inventory level, the higher the likelihood of a stock out and the potential loss cost of back orders, lost sales, and lost customers. So the higher the inventory level, the higher the level of customer service. And then, so if you also think about operating efficiency, then in the context of operating efficiencies, inventories kind of decouple from one operation to another, and that's going to allow manufacturing to operate more efficiently. So, because this is going to allow leveling production and avoid the cost of changing production levels. Carrying inventory allows longer production runs and it also reduces the number of setups. Finally, inventories also let manufacturing to purchase in larger quantities. They have ABC classification systems that can help you prioritize individual items so that the inventory and the costs can get better control. Now, the third factor to consider is the cost of placing orders. Inventory can be reduced by ordering less each time an order is placed. However, this increases the annual cost of ordering. Then another factor to think about also is transportation and handling costs. The more often that goods have to be moved and the smaller quantities that are moved, the greater the transportation and material handling costs. So inventory management is influenced by several factors. And so the classification of inventory, whether it's raw material, work in progress, or finished goods, the function that inventory serves would be, anticipation, fluctuation, transportation. And so besides managing inventory at the aggregate level, it has to be also managed at the item level. Management needs to be able to establish some decision rules about inventory items so that inventory control staff can do their job effectively. Now, let's look at some of these inventory costs. You're going to see some examples in your textbook on how to calculate EOQ. So I'm just going to go over it conceptually. So EOQ, or economic order quantity, refers to the optimum amount of inventory that one should order. Now, companies use this concept in inventory management. It aims at minimizing the cost of inventory buying and inventory holding. At the same time, it's going to try to meet customer demand. So the EOQ helps companies avoid overstocking or understocking their inventories. So when a company orders more stock, the per unit purchase cost is going to decrease. However, on the other hand, the inventory holding cost increases. So both of these costs are inversely related to each other. And so EOQ, the economic order of quantity, is that very point that optimizes both the ordering costs and the carrying costs. However, when you do look after the EOQ model, it's based on some assumptions and it might not consider all the factors that could affect business. So I would say, err on caution when you're looking at this. So, but it's good to know some of the limitations. The EOQ formula gives us a fair idea about the right amount of inventory. However, it is based on assumptions which could limit its use. It assumes that customer demand is constant. It also assumes that the inventory holding costs and the inventory ordering costs are going to remain the same price and stable. So one might not be able to use it in all situations. It may be challenging to use EOQ when there's frequent changes in customer demand. It's also difficult when there's seasonal demand changes or if there's sudden changes in inventory costs. EOQ does not factor into the scope of bulk buying of inventory. Sometimes one might have enough funds to place an order as per EOQ. further, in the case of like multiple products, one must make EOQ calculations for each product. You can't just say one for the whole company. So there's an interesting graph that kind of shows you this relationship. And so the of the EOQ model. And so to just kind of orient you there, the y-axis are the costs, the x-axis is the EOQ quantity. So EOQ model is a fundamental model that was first used to help optimize inventory purchasing. And so there are two costs that we have to consider, the holding cost and the ordering cost. The ordering cost is going to be determined by the number of purchase orders. Holding cost is going to be determined by the average inventory. So as you can see, the total cost is going to be the sum of the holding cost plus the ordering cost. So ordering cost is going to include your order preparation, your processing, your inspection costs, transportation costs. So the rule of economies of scale suggests that the higher the ordering quantity will help reduce the ordering cost. And the more frequently we place our orders, the quantity per order is going to reduce, thus working up the ordering cost per unit. Now, on the other hand, the cost of carrying inventory is going to be far more than what meets the eye. So, because the inventory carrying cost includes like mostly your warehouse expenses, your handling costs, your insurance costs, even the cost of obsolescence or theft or pilferaging, and the opportunity cost of the capital. So the higher the inventory in our warehouse, the higher the carrying cost because of all the risks I just mentioned. And as you can see, there's this negative correlation between ordering costs and carrying costs. See, you can see that as the ordering cost increases, your carrying cost is actually declining. So this is the inverse relationship I'm referring to. So EOQ, which is the right down this line here in the middle, is that sweet spot that is going to be relatable for both ordering costs and EOQ. And as you can see, EOQ is that sweet spot where ordering and carrying costs are the lines representing them are crossing on that graph. And this point where the lines are crossing over for ordering and carrying costs represents the total cost. So when you put it to application, it would not really be possible to order the exact mathematically arrived EOQ number. Okay, so, but order quantity has a big impact on transportation, inventory carrying, warehouse operations, even order processing costs. So these costs per unit don't really play in a linear fashion, as you can see, because they kind of have this elliptical shape there. So it's more of a range. So if you have a carton or pallet load size, truck capacity on the lane would become some factors that help you to define the range of EOQ. So if you understand this graph, so far so good, then let's go on to the next graph before we wrap up. So let's constructively challenge some of the assumptions that are built into that EOQ model and make it further more user-friendly. So there are bulk purchase discounts that maybe a supplier transporter might give you because you buy more. The discounts are generally at like a slab level. And so looking at this graph here is going to represent the effect on total cost with ordering discounts. So as you can see here, this is if you order 1,000 units, right? And so the total cost is reducing to $580 here. So when you order 1,000 costs, but then if you only order 5,000 widgets, then the order actually it goes from $580 to 600. So the sum here is saying that your total annual costs are going to decrease overall if you order more quantity. So and so the if it, so you check so you want to check the impact of the warehousing space and costs, which all have been assumed to be linear for all quantity levels. So the next question to consider is, so how do we adapt the EOQ concept in our far complex, volatile, uncertain business environment? So let's identify some of the key business factors that must be carefully built into our model. So demand volatility. So is one factor there. EOQ assumes that you have uniform demand across the entire year. You would definitely want to include demand variability. Now, at this stage, it's important for you to introduce stock, safety stock. If you also have to look at some irregular demand. So in addition to the base of EOQ calculations, we need to add a reorder point concept to the procurement scheduling. The third factor to think about is demand seasonality. And so EOQ concept considers only the annual demand, but it doesn't really look at demarcating the seasonal peak periods for that separate EOQ. Fourth factor that could impact it would be promotions. If you have planned inventory buildup, that's going to supersede the EOQ when you're placing the order. And then the product shelf life, that's also not represented in EOQ. So if you get a question, asking what are some reasons for why your EOQ may not represent the reality. That could be because it doesn't really take into factors like maybe discounted bulk rates or sudden seasonality changes, or even things like any promotions and discounts that that come with the regular marketing advances there. And then product life cycle is another factor. For a product that is at the end of its life cycle, you want to hold lesser quantity, even if it means a higher ordering cost. So, of course, like, the S20 Samsung phone probably isn't going to be something you want to keep in inventory in large capacity when there's an S25 coming out. So that kind of wraps up in my introduction to this module. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you next time.